Ho ho ho, when it comes to the stock market, Santa definitely came all over and throughout the year, with most major indices being up huge, the S&P 500 being up 25% for the year, and the Nasdaq 100 being up 26% for the year. This got me thinking, how did my portfolio perform throughout the year, and what were some of the things that went right and went wrong? I recently saw my Spotify Wrap, and I want to repurpose that and be original and do a financial wrap. Original concept. So welcome to my 2024 financial wrap. The lessons that I learned, the mistakes that I made, how did my portfolio perform, the changes that I'll be making in 2025, and some interesting facts and statistics that you can also apply to your portfolio as well. I'm just gonna jump right into it. This is the intro slide, money printer go brr, nothing to explain here. The first statistic that we all need to consider when looking at our portfolio is the performance itself. For me, I was up $33,000 or 23% for the entire year, which is huge, pretty much in line with the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. If you take into account the yield of my portfolio, I'm actually beating the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. Good job by me. Even though I'm beating it by 0.5%, a beat is still a beat. My portfolio consists of two main elements. The first is my self-directed portfolio, which you can see is up $27,557 over the last year, or 21%. And I also have my work managed RRSP. This is similar to the 401k in the States, where I put some money, my employer matches it, and we have some modest growth in the portfolio. So most of my gains came from my self-managed portfolio, but my work-directed RRSP was also up roughly $2,000 something for the year, solid growth. Moving on, how much did I actually contribute in this year? This year, I managed to contribute $70,000. It's a huge amount, but most of this money came from my bonus at work, and also because I got a huge tax return since I invested in my RRSP. If you invest in the RRSP or the 401k and other retirement accounts, the government basically defers your taxes and gives you that money back now. You can choose whatever you want to do with it. What I choose to do with it is invest it again. I'm a pretty boring person, but that also means that my contributions stay relatively high yearly at around $70,000 for this year. My best performing stock for the year was actually American Express. This is up 65% for the year. Insane, 65%, certainly doubling the return of the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100, and almost tripling the return of those two indices that I care about. This is particularly because Amex is expanding its profit margins, and I think investors are seeing that travel is not going anywhere and returning to normals, even expanding. Amex has a very, very highly curated niche in that, which is luxury travel. And they're going to do well in that space, expand internationally, up 65%. But this was not the only stock that performed well. My top 5 performing stocks were Amex that we've seen, Fortinet, a huge cybersecurity player, up 64%, Shopify, yes, I invested in Shopify, don't come after me, 54%, and 2 Canadian companies. People say the Canadian economy is dead. Now, what does Manulife Financial and CIBC tell you? Up 51% and 45% each. Good solid buys at the right time, and I'm going to keep on adding to my positions in pretty much all of these stocks. Individual stocks are one thing, but I primarily invest in ETFs. So what about ETFs? My top 5 performing ETFs were HXQ or the Nasdaq 100, up 41%. You might say here, well, why is this up 41% when we just saw the index being up 26%? This is because my currency, the Canadian dollar, the greatest currency on earth, has been devalued to absolute oblivion. And this ETF is unhedged, which basically means I buy in Canadian dollars, but the holdings are in US dollars. So if the US dollar appreciates, my holdings also appreciate. Similarly, with the S&P 500, or BFE, is up 38%. HEQL, which is an all-equity leverage ETF. All equity basically means it holds US holdings and Canadian holdings, along with some leverage to boost up those gains, is up 28%. QQCL, this is in fact a covered call ETF, which is surprising. It is up 30% since it tracks the Nasdaq 100. And HYLD, a covered call ETF tracking the S&P 500, is up 14% for me. Not all is well in investing land. I also have some bad performers, and my worst performing stock is Snowflake, down minus 18% for me. I still believe in Snowflake's products, not enough to keep on adding to the position. I still hold a small position, but I think the products are solid in the data cloud, with data becoming increasingly important, especially with the new AI wave. I think Snowflake is going to keep on expanding revenue. I just want to wait and see if they can figure out the profit equation as well, because their expansion has not turned them more profitable. That is my only concern, but 18% loss is nothing if you take into account the long-term potential of Snowflake, so I'll keep on holding. Overall, if I could summarize everything, my total portfolio value is at $191,000. This number does not seem real to me. This number does not seem real at all, actually. recently when I reflect. $191,000 at the end of 2024 in the stock market. If you told me this a year ago, I would probably say you're out of your mind. But the main thing that I want to say is I just kept consistent and believed in the long-term potential of ETFs in particular. That led me to this value. My portfolio has been down negative 12% over the years. It has also been up way more than that. Regardless of what the portfolio does, I stay consistent, keep on investing, and keep on making my money work for me. Which is what I also want to emphasize in the portfolio composition section. ETFs are a large percentage of my portfolio, 66%, and a goal for 2025 is to drive this up to 70% and even beyond that. I primarily think that individual investors like myself should be investing in ETFs since they're A, more secure, B, less risky, and C, give you decent returns when it comes to the performance. I think it's just a win-win situation. I do have stock holdings because that just keeps me interested in investing, buying individual companies, although it might do well, it might not do well. I just want to stay consistent. That's my biggest concern with investing, which is why I want to have this 30% fund money as well. And speaking of fund money, I also have 2% of my portfolio in crypto, particularly Ethereum, which I will keep on adding and keep this number below 5%, making ETFs the primary focus point in my portfolio, which is evidenced by my 5 biggest holdings at the end of the year. We have VFV or the S&P 500, my largest holding at roughly $50,000 now, $46,000. We have VDY or the TSX 60, the Canadian version of the S&P 500, and slightly worse, at $25,000. Then we have Apple and Microsoft at $10,000 each, followed by HYLD or the covered call ETF tracking the S&P 500 at roughly $10,000 as well. So you'll see my 2 biggest holdings by far are ETFs, and this is how I'd like my portfolio to be in the future as well. We've talked a lot about my portfolio, the holdings, the individual companies, the ETFs, but what does this portfolio actually generate for me when it comes to the dividend income, something that I'm actually very interested in? In 2024, this portfolio roughly generated $4,637 or $386 per month, an absolutely ridiculous amount. $400 per month is more than I spend on groceries every month. So essentially that means that I can withdraw this money and eat. I'm not going to be able to pay rent, so that's another problem, but I'll still be able to eat from this portfolio. That just shows you the power of staying consistent in the stock market and building your wealth over time. My biggest single dividend payment is $120 from VFV. I have Vanguard twice written on this slide because I love you, Vanguard. I love you so much. This is ridiculous. S&P 500 grew 38%. This ETF grew 38% for me in this year, and it still paid me $120 in one single dividend payment. When it comes to a broader analysis of my dividend payers, HYLD was my biggest pair, the covered call ETF tracking the S&P 500, paying me roughly $1,200, VDY or the TSX 60 paying me $1,000, HDIV or the covered call ETF tracking the TSX 60 paying me $860, VFV paying me $443, and BNS or the Bank of Nova Scotia, the best Canadian bank, paying me $255. Solid numbers all around. That was my portfolio and my dividend income. What are my goals for 2025? My goals for 2025 is building this portfolio up to $300,000. You might be wondering, where are you going to get that $100,000 from? A, I am leaning into the market a bit here. My portfolio is at the point where even a 10% increase means a potential $20,000 increase for me. That is huge when it comes to achieving this $300,000 figure. B, I am leaning into my own contributions. I want to contribute roughly $50,000 to $60,000 in this portfolio. And C, I'm also looking into side hustles and funneling that income into this portfolio as well. You can see my other video series where I try different side hustles and try out what works and what doesn't. This year, I want to scale those side hustles up, the ones that worked in 2024, and hopefully funnel all of that money into this portfolio as well. All in all, this goal might be a bit unachievable, but I think it is possible through consistency and making sure I keep on investing in the stock market. If I don't achieve it, then hey, I tried my best, but it is just something to aim for. In terms of dividend income, I want to grow this income to 5 figures, $10,000, a very optimistic goal. I essentially took $10,000 and divided it by 3.5%, which is my portfolio yield when it comes to dividends. And that gave me this $10,000 number. Once again, slightly out of reach, but that is why I choose these goals to be slightly out of reach, because I want to stay consistent. I want to be driven to achieve these goals. If I make them too achievable, I think that's not the right way to go about it from my own mental psyche, which is why I make my goals slightly unachievable. Not that unachievable. I'm not saying 50,000, but 10,000. It's probably not going to happen unless I figure some things out, dial down, and make more money, which is my primary goal for 2025. We've talked a lot about money and increasing wealth, which is important in life. Everybody should look to do that. But I also think I want to spend some time reflecting reflecting on the year and spending money as well, since I don't want to make it seem like I spend no money. The only thing that I spend money on pretty much is travel. I don't have a lot of clothes, I don't have a lot of material possessions. It makes me learn a lot of things and unlearn some beliefs that I had, try out amazing food, meet amazing people, and the memories that I make through travel are some memories that I would never trade for any amount of money in the world. I know that sounds cliche, but I think everything has to be a balance. You cannot be so focused on one thing that you completely forget to live life. And for me, travel is the way I live life. If living life for you are passion projects, that is completely fine. Hobbies, that is amazing. For me, travel is the way that I choose to live life. And like I said before, I wouldn't trade these experiences for any amount of money. Of course, everything is a balance, and I want to strike this balance in 2025 as well. For example, if I'm able to hit that $300,000 goal, but it would mean that I have to sacrifice all my travel, the thing that actually brings me joy, I would probably not do that if I'm being quite honest with you. Because balance is important in life. It keeps you motivated, it keeps you sane. That is the most important thing. And speaking of insanity, I also have this YouTube channel that I'm proud of. I have shared a lot of content in the past year related to investment, finance, some documentary style videos that I thought were interesting and people received well. And I have 849 subscribers now, which is amazing. Thank you everybody who watches these videos, and hopefully you learned something from my videos when it comes to making money, saving more, or investing. The entire purpose of this channel is to give you a realistic picture of what making money and investing and saving is like, since there's so many scams online, so many people saying you can make $10,000 a day, doing side hustles, so many people showing you exorbitant amounts in their portfolio or exorbitant amounts in passive income, quote unquote, in extremely bad investments. So I just want to create information. I want to create something that people can learn from. So if you're one of these 849 people, I thank you a lot. I am going to continue posting consistently in 2025 as well. And if you want to join the journey, as always, smash the like button and the subscribe button. Wrapping my financial wrap and probably I would say my year wrap, the one thing that I think you should take away from this is staying consistent. If you stay consistent in your portfolio or in life with anything, for example, working out, hobby, literally anything that you can think of, you will see gains. It is not pretty, it is not all fun and games. You are going to struggle, you are going to feel like crap for some days, but that is where staying consistent comes in. If you stay consistent, you can see gains in anything. Hopefully you had a good 2024 and an even better 2025 when it comes to your finances and money and also your personal life. Give me a thumbs up and a subscribe if you like this video, and also because it's New Year, spread some love and happiness. Look at me begging for subscribers. You don't have to. Anyways, Happy New Year, have a good start of the year, and I'll see you in the next one.